Wuornos on her way to court. All the press attention has made her into something of a star. Even before her arrest, up to 15 Hollywood movie companies were competing for her story. To date, Republic Pictures and CBS have produced a TV movie called Overkill, starring Jean Smart as Lee Wuornos, and there are 2 feature films being negotiated. There are also the chat shows, documentaries, and the books. The deal on a Killing Day gives Aileen 33% on every paperback sold. Lee, facing yet another death sentence, seemed to be more upset about these deals than anything else.
Yes, I'd like to say that wait a minute. To the public and to all the people of the world and to the news personnel that have been working on these trials and these cases for the past 16 months that had stated defamations and mendacious lies of 98.6% magazines and news articles to probably paid off by the cops to vile my character, make me look like a monster and deranged or something like a Jeff Dahmer, which I'm not. I intend to expose the crooked cops to the people all over the world. Not just America, not just Florida, all over the world before I die. And I also feel that the movie Overkill, that is a total fictional lie, that they framed me as a first-time female serial killer for the title for that movie. For first female serial killer is not what I am, and I'm not even near it, and my confessions prove it, yet they have taken the confessions and gone 200% against what my confessions stated to get their bogus movie out. And it stated self-defense totally, which they hid from the jury at the Mallory trial, and they have hid from the public eye.
Lee Wuornos insists she's not a serial killer, that she did not stalk her victims or plan her crimes. As with the movie deals, Lee is also surrounded by a web of experts, all competing with their own theories on her behavior. Lee is portrayed as anything from a neglected and abused child who hates her father and is murdering him over and over again, to a sadist who takes pleasure in the agony of her victims. Geneticists have asked for samples of Lee's body tissue, and there are plans to preserve Lee Wuornos' brain for future experimentation.
Receive that money. Thank you.
Sheriff Moreland! We're chasing Sheriff Don Moreland across the Marion County car park. Sheriff Moreland has avoided our phone inquiries about 3 of his officers reportedly having had movie discussions with Hollywood a month prior to Lee's arrest. We've also contacted the Public Defender's Office, the State Attorney's Office, and the Public Prosecutor's Office, all of whom have refused to talk to us. We tried to get Sheriff Moreland to speak, but all he did was to lock the door of his public building.
We get affected. For example, on October 31st, just days after depositions had been taken on the case, I came home from work and went to my back door and noticed a note in the door. And the note...
The back door here?
The back door of my house, yes. And the note was stuck in the door, and I read it, and essentially it said, keep your mouth shut unless you want your family to get hurt. And I really didn't think too much of it at the time because, I've seen threats before. That's no big deal. But I turned it over to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement just in the event that anything did happen. I wanted them to have it documented. Less than a month later, on November 25th, my wife had gone out to the post office in the store during the daylight hours. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning. When she came home, the house had been broken into. The doors were ajar. She went up to my office, and all of the files on the Wuornos case, on the investigators, and all the information I had been trashed. Nothing else had been touched in the house.
This is the note that was pinned to Brian Jarvis's back door. He suspects the burglary was connected with the Wuornos case, but has been unable to prove who was responsible.
I have no way to prove who broke into my house. I went to the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. I went to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. I had hoped that I could get a good investigation done. Instead, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement initially accused the media of breaking into my house to create a story. It was ridiculous. They refused to acknowledge the fact that there was something wrong here that they had to check into, and they refused to check into it. After accusing the media, they accused me of setting up the burglary. Totally ridiculous. They wouldn't.
Brian Jarvis now works as a private investigator in Tampa. He resigned from the police force.
And I could see from that point on, the state attorney's office wouldn't do anything in their investigation up in Ocala. FDLE wouldn't do their job down here. I wrote to the FBI. Took 4 months to get a reply from them. In the meantime, we were literally awake for weeks at a time because we were afraid to go to sleep at night. And it really messed up our whole lifestyle, but just the thought that the evidence confronting Tyria Moore, she was in possession of property belonging to one of the murder victims, yet she was never charged with anything. She had been seen when we had brought the composites around. A person in a convenience store said, I saw two people fitting those descriptions in here, and the date and time she gave was the same date and time that we narrowed Mr. Humphreys down to being there, because we had found a receipt in his car. A statement was taken from her. It was never followed up on. She was never shown photographs of the girls. She was never followed up on in any manner.
There is no evidence that Tyria Moore was involved in the killing. Informed us we were no longer welcome. They cited our previous security violation.
Maybe I'll look better next time. I'm getting my commissary today, some mascara and a brush.
Shortly after we left, it was discovered that Richard Mallory, Lee Warnos's first victim, had spent 10 years in an institution for attempted rape. Should there be an appeal, Steve Glazer will not be in charge of the case. Several months after we left, the Hollywood movie discussions reportedly caught up with the police. Sergeant Munster and Captain Binniger have both been transferred out of the Criminal Investigation Division. And here, Sheriff Moreland is announcing the resignation of Major Dan Henry following the bug phone conversation he had about the Warnos movie deals.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of the most unpleasant things I've ever had to do.
Try to investigate some of this stuff?
Yeah, we will.
If you guys can look for the Republican Pictures contract.
I just got 487 to figure out landlord can't dispute on.
You've got it right there. If you can find it, that'll set me a new trial for a Supreme Court.
The Republic Pictures.
Yeah, Republican Pictures. That's where they're working at. Overkill movie. If you can find the contract, they're dead meat.
You're saying that they wanted to. They said that this section is being covered by this voiceover because of potential legal problems that might otherwise arise, as with the bleep section that is to follow.
Made up in their mind, she's a serial killer, and we're going to, even if she's innocent, we don't care. We're going to make the public believe she's a serial killer. But anyway, that's what said, that you're going to, two things you're going to have to do. You're going to have to get
The prison informed us we were no longer welcome. They cited our previous security violation.
Maybe I'll look better next time. I'm getting my commissary today, some mascara and a brush.
Shortly after we left, it was discovered that Richard Mallory, Lee Warnos's first victim, had spent 10 years in an institution for attempted rape. Should there be an appeal, Steve Glazer will not be in charge of the case.